Okay, welcome to the Not Pod.
I'm excited to be here.
We've just lit the Wandering Bee candle.
Yeah.
We're about to pour a cup of tea from the Duchess China Alice in Wonderland tea set.
Yes.
And we're here at Dissident Studios.
It's amazing.
We're made in Stoke and in Staffordshire, and I've got you, Kirsty Hulse, on. So thanks for joining.
I'm excited. I'm actually also very excited for a cup of tea.
Shall we pour this? It's a peppermint tea.
Yeah.
I've warmed the pot and everything, like my dad always tells me to do.
I've got a nice Emma Bridgewater teapot, and it does add a bit of a special moment to your day.
Yeah, it's more ceremonial, isn't it?
It is.
This is what. That's a good pour.
It's good for your digestion.
Yeah,
Cheers.
perfect. Cheers. Good start to the pod. That's extremely warm.
It's very hot. It's extremely hot. So hot.
Wow, that's hot. Yeah, we both burnt our tongues and
It's
ruined
also
the start.
like 30 degrees
Yeah,
outside.
it's not the weather,
A
actually.
refreshing cup
Yeah,
of tea.
it's not the weather for a tea at all. I'm actually beading.
Sorry,
No, I'm
sorry.
actually beading. Oh, wow. Like, how long have you been back in this area for now?
We moved officially back to Stoke on the 28th of September. So about, 10 months.
That's just okay. Yeah, okay, so you're there. Do you call it, because you live in Stone?
I know, but I call
Yeah.
it Stoke because I grew up in Stoke.
Yeah.
And so in my mind, Stone isn't a separate place because I used to go there as a teenager. But I do live in Stone.
No, and I'm not trying to go sort of county lines maths test on you. I just, it's interesting, isn't it? What's Stoke, what's Staffordshire, what does Stoke mean? Like to you, Stoke encapsulates, because it's the same for me. Like I grew up in, Mere Heath and Stallington, which are technically in Staffordshire, I think. But
Oh, are they?
like if I went to university, or when I moved to London and someone said, "Where are you from?" I'm Stoke.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I have found and I hate this, but depending on who I talk to, sometimes I'll say Stoke and then sometimes I'll be like, Staffordshire, because,
No, I completely know it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I noticed actually, I was genuinely picking up these, the tea set from Duchess China this morning, and some and this is not just for them, but this happens a lot. Some stuff says made in Staffordshire on the back, and some stuff says made in Stoke on the back.
Yeah.
And it's like that perception and that brand's.
Yes.
Yeah.
I used to live in the US and Starbucks used to have, when you could buy the mugs and stuff, they used to have it in the States, they used to have a big sign that said, made in our heritage factory in England. And it used to annoy me every time, in England. Okay,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. When do you say Staffordshire then? And who?
If I'm working in London and I'm speaking to someone I want to get money from, I just find maybe sometimes because there's something about London and Staffordshire,
Yeah.
Can I swear?
Yes, please
Okay.
do. Yeah.
Like a fucking town and country mouse. Did you ever
Yeah.
read those books? But I think generally, if I'm speaking socially, I'll say Stoke.
Yeah, got you. Staffordshire feels then maybe it gives you that sort of edge of affluence or
I think so.
status or class or whatever. Yeah, I get that. I think Staffordshire's got connotations of, green fields and country estates and manors, hasn't it? And then Stoke's got a whole different edge to it. But then I also not shocking people, but I think sometimes people. Yeah, I don't know. I like saying I'm from Stoke and just seeing. I kind of like seeing how people react.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was actually on a stag do recently, and a guy kept telling me how Stoke was a shithole,
I hate it.
and I was like, and it was funny because he didn't know who he was talking to, in that sense. As if I was going to have a fight with him, but I don't think he got my sort of passion. But it was just interesting because he wasn't from this area, and he was just. There was no real substance to that. I'm not really saying he was right or wrong. It's just that it very much felt like a statement that had been placed in his head from somewhere.
And I think people think, so someone said to me very recently, a client, quite a senior person I really respected, and he was like, oh, right, and he's from Nottingham. Feels kind of a similar place. And he said, where are you from? I said, Stoke. And he just like went. He was like, oh, Stoke's the worst. And I was like, do you think I've never heard that before?
Wow.
You know, do you think like from the moment I left the city, people haven't been like making those comments as if it's the first time anyone said it? I find it incredibly tedious.
And that was unsolicited.
Completely unsolicited. It's always unsolicited though, isn't it? People think they're being very...
What do you think that, like, where do you think that comes from?
Do you know what? I think if I was to look at it compassionately, I think it's a person's desire to connect. I think, you know, when you meet a stranger, you're trying to find that common ground. So I think there is a bit of like joking and teasing. I often think it comes from a good place of someone wanting to like connect with you, I think. But obviously, if you've grown up constantly been told where you grew up as a shithole, it does get very tiring because you can't keep telling people where they grew up as a shithole and not internalize you're a bit shit. So it really frustrates me.
Well, you literally can't live in a shithole or a perceived shithole without feeling like a piece of shit. Like
Exactly.
you can't do that. I mean, me and my mates used to say it's a shithole, but it's our shithole. And that was like this sentence of love, really. But I think the sad part of that is, yeah, on some level, I imagine we'd have all been like, oh yeah, but we don't necessarily feel great about that.
Yeah, I do. And I think when people say that stuff, I do think they're just trying to like have a bit of friendly
banter. It's a bit of banter, isn't it? And maybe where they're from, they think is a bit of a shithole as well.
Exactly.
So they think it's okay to say it. Where did you grow up here? Just so we get into, we love the details. You know what people are like from this area.
Yes,
like,
Mere Park.
You don't have to give street name and number. That would be strange.
My mum and dad still live there.
But people love the details. So Mere Park, and then you went to school, Blythe Bridge,
Blythe High.
from Blythe High. That's it. What was your perception like of the place growing up? Because obviously you don't know any different.
Growing up, I've learned a whole different side of the place since I moved back. Like growing up, we never went to like Bollaston Downs, or we didn't do any of the walks, so it was very much like I'd get the number 6 bus up to Hanley and Longton of a weekend, and that was it. That was my life. And I think my perception, it's hard to say because I think it was all I ever knew, right? So I think I had this sense that I wanted a career. And when I was a teenager, I wanted to be an actress for like a hot minute. And I started, like, who hasn't? And then I was about 15 and I went to stage school and they told me that if I had any chance of making it as an actress, I'd have to change my accent. And I think that's when I started being like, oh, because I was proper like Conor Donawana, really like Pottery's dialect. And so I really started changing it. And I think maybe that was the first time I started being like, wait, is being from here going to like hold me back in any kind of way?
You know, that was the first time you're like, oh, this is a disadvantage.
Yes, I think so.
At 15?
15.
Yeah, wow. But other than that, you were like happy? You know what I mean?
I think so. Yeah. And again, when you're a teenager, like, especially, and I do think the place has changed since, you know, the 90s and the early noughties. When I was a teenager, I wasn't a teenager in the 90s, but I was a teenager in the early noughties. And I mean, then it was, you know, places like Longton in particular were really having a rough time. And you'd get the bus and you'd look out and again, you knew that it was like a bit rough around the edges. Yeah. But I've always liked it as a place. And even, you know, I left and I was not in this city for a long time. But I always felt of it and like part of it in a way that I think a lot of other places you don't seem to get such a strong connection to. So I think growing up, it was what I knew. It was all I'd known. And I think I knew there wasn't anything to do and we just hung around the streets. Yeah. But I don't think I knew an alternative.
Yeah. And then how did that shift when you did like, when did you leave? Was it uni?
Uni.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I remember the first time I had a courgette at uni. Yeah. And
was that like a vivid memory? Or?
It's like a super vivid memory. Because again, I think that was when I realised.
By the way, that's the last thing I expected you to say.
Like, I just remember being like, first week at uni and someone was like, oh, should we have like some pasta with some pesto and courgette? And I was like, what the fuck is pesto? Yeah. And what is a courgette? Yeah. And everybody just knew what it was. And I think, again, then I was like, oh, wow, okay, so I've missed stuff. There are like, and it was just in Tesco, but it wasn't in our Tesco. Yeah, yeah. And so, again, I think it was around then that I was, and this is pre-internet, and I think the internet is a great equalizer culturally. Yeah. And this is, again, before really we had that internet that set those, you know, you didn't have like an Instagrammer talking about recipes that are accessible for everyone. Yeah. So at uni, I've really felt quite othered at uni, actually, especially because I was like...
What uni did you go to?
I went to Birmingham. And I just remember like people like screaming with laughter when I said kook book. And everybody that I went to uni with was like had been to boarding school and private school and stuff. So I felt very different then.
I mean, it's amazing that, you know, in generations gone by, if you're from a place like Stoke, you wouldn't have gone to uni. So it's brilliant that we've both had that. But very similar experiences. The accent, I think at uni, I realised my accent wasn't the same as other people's. Obviously, I knew other people had different accents, but for some reason, you know, the Geordie accent, people didn't take the piss out of. The Scouse accent, maybe a little bit. Other accents didn't see, I don't know, whereas I feel like mine got quite a lot of attention. Yeah. You know, Book, or the big one for me was Small, Bally,
Dally,
Malin. Like I never forget like being on pre-drinks or something. I was like, oh, should we buy this Malin, lads? And like I just got absolutely
you and the lads buying a lot of Malins.
I can't remember. Or I had a mate that was called Elliot. And I couldn't say his name. He kept saying to me, "You're saying my name wrong," and I was like, "No, I'm not." Yes. Like, it's my name.
My friend Eleanor is like, "You're calling me Al, like a man's name." So I can't even hear it. Okay, the big one that I got taken the piss out of for was, okay, I'm not going to say it. How do you say the word that's like a test that begins with an E?
Yeah. Well, I know this and that exam. But
exam.
Yeah. I think it's hard now for me to sort of reflect on my accent because I think it's been chipped away and changed so much. But at uni, I got slammed for that as well. Eggs and hams, you know.
Yeah, that was the first time I was like, wait, that's just how you say it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I can remember trying to get a book out of the library and being like, "Can I get a book out, mate?" And like, I just had to talk. And then eventually I was like, "Oh, I see." So yeah, I could feel that. And then what happened after that? Like, did that make you want to like hold on to that like Stoke identity more, or
no, I would love to say I wish it had, but I ran from it. I changed my accent quite dramatically, but that wasn't conscious so much, it just happened. I think, you know, when my Luke Book and Kook dropped pretty quick, and then I moved to London, and I always had I guess a sense of pride from being from Stoke, but I was always very ambitious, especially in my 20s. And I think I was like running away from what I thought this place stood for. I think I was running away from a lot of like what I'd associated with my background here.
And what is that from a career ambition perspective? How do those two play out for you?
I think I'd learned along the lines that money is difficult and money is hard and bad people have money. Yeah. And I think that's a belief that a lot of people in working class towns, any working class towns have, that salt to the earth, we're a grafter, money is for knobheads. Yeah. And so I was really trying to shed that because I wanted to be successful. I wanted to have a good career. And I think I'd learned some like weird traits about money and also behaviors. I think I wanted to be healthy, like emotionally and physically healthy. That had never necessarily been modeled to me that well here. And so I think I just was like really trying to, you know, move away from where I grew up in quite like a strong way. Yeah. Yeah. And that you're like absolutely not alone in that. Like, you know, I think I did that on loads of levels, and I would not just know of loads of people that did that. Like, you can literally see it, you know, if you think of like the sort of brain drain or the loss of young people from this area. I think a lot of people, I used to always see it in, I don't know, when I moved to London, like there was people I went to school with that maybe in like the year above me or in my year, or I just knew of them. And I knew they were in London when I was there. And I don't know. It's like I knew that they weren't telling people where they were from. I could just sense it. Do you know what I mean? I'm not trying to like shit on anyone, but I could just feel it and like hiding a part of who you are. It's shame, basically. Well, I think I learned, and I don't think I learned, I think I was told, often quite explicitly, that I wouldn't be taken seriously unless I change my accent, change my humour. There is a good humour in Stoke that you just don't get anywhere else.
Extremely sarcastic.
Extremely sarcastic. And it's so, and I love it. And it's, and you have to.
Very quick.
It's quick,
Yeah.
it's sarcastic, it's self-deprecating.
Yeah.
There's no formality.
Yeah.
I remember when I first left Stoke and somebody tried to shake my hand, I was like, fuck is that?
Yeah.
Like, what are you? There's none of those, that like...
No, it's, there's less barrier.
And the thing that actually made me... the word that popped into my head was remarkable, so we'll go with it. But the thing that made me like stand out professionally was all of those attributes I'd got from Stoke. That like, A, working hard, B, being... I think there's a bit of a confidence in this city. There's a lot of like stuff around like money and things, but I do think there's a bit of like, oh, fuck it, yeah, I am who I am.
Yeah, there's a
little bit of that here.
Take me or leave me.
Take me or leave me, yeah. And I think a lot of people are like that here, which I really respect. And so I think a lot of what really made me who I am, my warmth, my ability to chat to people, I learned that here. And that's very characteristic of this city, for sure.
You were almost just running away from its perception. And some of the maybe stories, by the sounds of it, that you felt like you picked up around, ambition or money or what you could go on to achieve.
And happiness. You know, it was a tough time. Like the 90s in particular, everybody had been made redundant. People were struggling. Families were struggling. I wasn't surrounded, I don't think many of us were during those years, by like much ease or happiness. A lot of people were struggling. And I think I was like, life here is a struggle.
Yeah.
Because it's when
I was definitely protected from that, I think, in my like little bubble that my mum and dad created for me. But I think I felt that. I basically felt that on nights out. Like, or on buses. Like if I would get the bus, the 6 or the 6A, into Hanley, through Longton bus station, that's where I think I would pick up like just it's what has become deprivation. I don't know if it necessarily was then, but just a downtrodden, like a lack of, like almost this defeated feeling. And I would pick that up. I would especially pick it up, you know, if I was on a night out, and the way, just the anger that used to come out on nights out. Like you could never go out in Hanley and not see a fight. There was just always anger or fighting or just there was just anger. Like people were angry. They must have been picking up from somewhere in terms of like a lack of hope. And that's similar to you. That's why I just wanted to do one, just get away as quickly as possible. And what was your, because you've mentioned a couple of times like, oh, I was ambitious, or like, you know, what were you ambitious in, basically? Or were you just ambitious?
I think I was just ambitious. And I've got a big family. And I think that's I've got 4 older brothers and I'm the youngest. And so I think that does create, I really, you know, when I was little, having 4 older brothers, and they were like teenagers, just like lads, like teenager lads. I'm about 3.
Yeah.
And I had to fight to be seen and heard, and often even fed. Like if I wasn't like genuinely doing something hilarious and funny, they'd just eat my food. And so that's what boys are like. That's what brothers are like. And so, especially that, like a pack of them.
Yeah.
And so I think I developed early this like hunger. And I also think I think every single person in the world is born with a seed of something in them that they want to express. I think that's true for everyone. And I think it's how like buried that seed gets. But everyone's got a dream. Everyone, every single person. And some people have an easier access to it than other people. And so I think I just always felt this elusive sense of like, I want to do something. Yeah. Yeah. And I still don't know exactly what that is, but this sense of like, I want to, have impact and I want to create. I didn't have those words then, but and I think I was fortunate in that my parents were quite unconventional in many ways. And one of the ways they were very unconventional that I'm very grateful for is they never forced any like academic rigor on me. I think they did on maybe my older siblings, but you know, you've had 5 kids. By the time it comes to the 5th, they sent their regards. Yeah, we wish you well. So they were very much like, just if you enjoy it, do it. And if you don't. And so I was given a lot of like creative expression and freedom to like explore different things. I was never told to like do your homework, go to uni. I could do whatever I wanted. Yeah.
Did you have role models for that growing up? Like were there people that you looked to and thought, I want to be like them, or people that opened doors for you, even just in your mind?
My brothers for sure. And like my middle brother, Kieran, he went to Oxford. No one in my school had ever, maybe like one person had ever been to Oxford. It was this like big deal. You know, my eldest brother was the first person in my whole family ever to go to uni.
Wow.
So I think my brother's set a precedent. Yeah. And so, you know, one of my brothers now is like a judge. Like we've all done interesting, cool things. I don't know how, but I think when you have that many people, you kind of like create an energy together.
Yeah.
And we're all different enough that there wasn't a rivalry. We're all quite different. There's a solid age gap. So there wasn't a rivalry, but there was if they can do it, I can do it.
Yeah, it's cool to hear that, because I think sometimes in families you sometimes hear of families keeping each other small. You know, like kind of maybe vying for attention in certain ways, or like getting jealous of one or the other, and maybe that's there. I don't know, but it sounds like you've inspired one another.
I think so. And my mum, you know, my granddad was down the pits. My mum grew up in, I guess, what you'd call poverty. And I think she just really wanted to just create something else. So my parents were like grafters, worked really, really hard to try and like create that kind of, not even necessarily opportunities, but to create that sense of hope, that sense of like, you know, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, yeah. And it sounds like you felt that. And even with such an amazing platform, even then it sounds like you then picked up though on some of the limitations and the sort of glass ceiling perhaps of just the wider area, or the judgment from elsewhere. You know, like you go to uni and your accent gets taken the piss out of, that, and it's going to knock your confidence in some way, or just feel like another barrier. Or how else did that start to show up, like just when you went into work?
Oh my God, I remember I went at a meeting with like a management consultancy. So everyone who goes there pretty much like went to public schools. It's a very elitist.
What was it? Was this an interview or?
No, it was so I used to run a marketing agency and I was pitching for some work from them.
Got you.
And at the time I was still fairly young, not that age matters, but I think I looked young. Yeah. So I think people were judging me.
And you've jumped into your own business at this point.
Jumped in,
yeah.
Like head first, jumped in. And went to this kind of pitch, like a pitch for some work, started speaking, and one of them, and I'm not going to mimic the accent, but you know what I mean, one of them like leant back in his chair, crossed his arms, and he's like, I'm sorry, I have no idea what you're saying. And at that point, my accent was like this, you know, it wasn't strong. I was maybe speaking a bit fast because I was maybe a bit nervous, and I think maybe it can get a bit stronger then, and it was just this total and utter dismissal based on class.
Yeah.
And I've felt a lot. And again, I wouldn't say that I'm working class. My dad was an accountant.
Yeah.
But I would definitely say that people assume, and I think there are rooms that I've never been given access to and that I've been like shut out from. I think people think that there aren't class barriers. And I think for most of us there aren't. But I think when you get to a certain level, like it's very, very, very apparent.
Yeah.
And it made me really mad. And I think I've been angry about it ever since. And I think that's what's driven a lot of my like, fuck you, which has been a lot of my ambition.
So it's just a total, because it's not just, that sentence of, I can't understand what you're saying. Sounds like there was more than that in that interaction.
Yes.
Someone could politely say maybe like, could you slow down? I'm struggling to understand you. You know what I mean? That might be very different, but it sounds like it wasn't really about that. I'm assuming you didn't win the contract.
In the end, we did actually.
Oh, right. Okay.
But only because I was like, just like went back, kicked off. I was pretty tenacious.
Yeah.
But I think I've definitely felt, for me, it's not about necessarily being from Stoke. It's about being from any like regional town or any post-industrial town.
Yeah.
Where you are, a lot of the things structures that are put in place, especially in careers, like the formality, when you say to people, be professional, you're kind of telling people to be like a middle-class man. Yeah,
be something you're not, be something else.
Sound like a newsreader, sound like whereas actually I think a lot of this idea of like what it means to be professional is just elitist and classist, and I hate it. Yeah.
And then tell us then, because you've dived into starting your own thing, it doesn't sound like you have any, you've not got an uncle that was running like a big business. Do you know what I mean? I'm guessing there weren't like entrepreneurial role models.
No. I'm having a bit more tea.
Go for more tea. We're loving the tea. I make so hot, I don't think I can drink more tea, but it actually pour me another one because it's just fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think we should. Like how did you end up getting into business? Like how did you end up starting your own business?
So I was working in digital marketing. And again, I just, I graduated 2008. I did a philosophy degree. I mean, what's anyone doing with that? Peak of recession, couldn't get a job, working in sales, did door-to-door selling Empower round like the arse end of Stoke, round Shelton, door-to-door for commission only. Did it for 6 months, made 100 quid. I was bad at it. I used to just go in and chat to old people.
Yeah. That's a bad rate of return, isn't it? For 6 months. Like, I'm sorry, but it's not the best.
And I accrued a lot of debt because...
okay.
In those kind of commission-only roles, they're like, you're just a few yeses away from making loads. I was young and I didn't, so accrued loads of debt and then ended up working in digital marketing. Just a really nice man gave me a chance, like just saw that maybe I would work hard.
And where was that job then?
That was in Leeds. So I moved up to Leeds after uni. Don't really know why, but so moved up to Leeds. Worked in digital marketing and just kind of like found a rhythm. It was a new industry. And so I just got good at it pretty quick. And I got invited to speak at lots of conferences. And then a friend of mine was the like global head of digital for Virgin Atlantic. And he was like, Kirsty, we need a new agency. Who should we use? And I was like, honestly, like not many agencies are that good at the moment. And then he was like, look, set up an agency, come in to pitch. Mm-hmm. And I cannot say no. Like, I can't. And so when he said that, I was like, fine. So went in to pitch for a, like, global digital marketing contract with Virgin Atlantic. We didn't have anything. We didn't have a website. I didn't have a team.
Yeah, it was just you.
It was just me. It was literally just me. And just before I went in, there was all these other really big agencies, established businesses, like super slick. And I called my mum and I was crying in the stairwell. And I was like, Val, I call her Val. That's her name. And I was like, Val, I can't do this. And she was like, Doc, you just got to live life for the anecdote, haven't you? And so I was like, yeah, actually, I'll just do it because it'll just be a good story.
I mean, that's a phenomenal line. I know. Is that one of her lines?
So she has these lines.
That's brilliant.
One of them. Yeah, live life for the anecdote. And so she said that to me. I went in and I won it. I won the contract. Wow. And so then suddenly I was like, right, okay, so I've got my first ever client in business is Virgin Atlantic. Got to figure out how to make this work. And then I figured out how to make it work.
That's the most lovely conversation with your mum.
Yeah.
That is actually like, I don't know, that just feels like that sums up everything. It's made me emotional, weirdly. Oh. I just feel like, I just think I know that love. Like, I think that is like, that's a very typical, like, motherly, maternal, lovely Stoke woman. I've not met your mum. But I just think that, like, that support, I just think that's really nice.
Yeah.
I could imagine how that would give you a lot of freedom.
A lot of freedom. She taught me how to run a good sit-in protest when I was a kid.
Yeah.
She's like naughty. Yeah. She's a naughty woman. She kicks off a lot. So, so I think I was given that, like, especially as a girl in a family of boys, because it could have been very easy for me to feel different.
Yeah.
Very easy. Yeah. But if anything, I think I was given a bit more, you can do anything. Than my brothers. I think my brothers were a bit more, had a bit more discipline perhaps than I did. But I think my parents were very mindful to try and not make me feel like a girl and different somehow.
Yeah.
But so that's how I got into business.
Yeah, I love that. What is it?
Live life for the anecdote.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that. and then that business journey, like, because we could be talking on a podcast that's just about business, and that'd be a whole story in itself of like what it's like starting something up and it's hard and whatever. Where were you doing that from for a start?
I was in London.
Okay, so you've moved down to London.
Yeah. You're
running a business. How old?
I was 26.
So you're young.
Young, yeah.
How are you? Like, how are you doing? Like, are you all over the place? Are you loving it? Are you not even thinking?
Oh God, I didn't know myself very well. I didn't have much emotional maturity. And the business grew pretty fast. And we ended up with a team and I was like traveling a lot and it was like really good for my like ego, you know? Yeah. I felt like hot shit. And I was like, yeah, this is amazing. I'm doing it. But I was actually quite like deeply sad. And I think that happens to a lot of people who move quickly through life.
Yeah.
And I was bored, and I think, I was all right. But then I married a man I'd met in a bar in California like two months after meeting him.
It's taken a turn.
Because I basically went to California, went to like a blues bar, met someone, married him 2 months later.
Right, okay.
Because
I'm just processing that one.
Yeah. Like, had to ring my family and was like, hiya, I'm married. Because...
Proper like you got married?
Got married. Like, full on got married.
Yeah.
Didn't know the guy, totally in secret. And I think that is...
how old were you when you got married?
27.
Wow, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I think, yeah. And I think that is just an indication of like where I was.
Yeah,
I was like bored. And I was like, I wanted a change. I wanted something different.
Searching for something?
I was searching for something. I was searching for home, you know? And I really liked the US. And I was searching for a home. I was searching for like connection, and he was the same. I think he was on a similar journey. You know, two people don't just like randomly get married.
No, there's and I suppose, you know, you've left home, you've left Stoke, you've been searching for how to like sort of fulfill your desire,
Something,
like your ambition or whatever that is. You've found a bit of that through business, I'm guessing, because this is similar for me as well. But it sounds like there was still more missing, and it's like maybe getting married and moving to California was the answer. I think that's totally understandable. To be fair, 2 months is pretty, like, that's obviously very unique, but I actually completely understand how you do that.
I can so get the headspace of it. Like, and it was fun. It was an adventure. It was new. And, you know, I say I spent a lot of my time running away. I remember, going to meet his family in like Laguna Beach, Southern California, stunning. And then his family came to Stoke to meet mine. And I remember I put something on Facebook like, look at how different these worlds are or something. And it was just so, this like, I'm trying to run away. Look at how far I ran. You know, that kind of...
You're trying to gloat. I don't know if that's harsh, but no, I you're trying to like almost send this message of like, look how well I'm doing. Yeah. Look how different this is now.
Something like that, for sure,
100%.
And I think really... I just didn't know myself. So what I was seeking actually, and it sounds a bit corny, but it's true. I was just seeking a connection to myself. Yeah. Because I'd never taken the time to be like, who are you, Kirsty? Like, what do you want? I'd just been like, go. Like work and perform. Like I use the word perform a lot, especially in my line of work now. And, you know, growing up in a big family, I really learned like if I can make people laugh, then like good shit will happen. Yeah. And so I'd always just like gone, done that.
Because you'd already stretched your world quite a lot. Your world's already stretched by starting a business and moving to London. And then you've like, that's an even deeper, like bigger stretch of California, whole different level of like wealth and status, and obviously another country, different culture. Yeah. How did that one, how did the wedding go? Like, how did that happen? Like when they came over, like, how was that?
So basically got married, then rang my mom and I was like, I've got married. Yeah. And my mum was like, you are my only daughter, you little prick. You are giving me a wedding. Yeah. So then we had a wedding at the Upper House in Barlaston.
Wow. All the Californian family came over.
It was weird. You know, it was weird. It was a bunch of people going, oh my God, what has happened? Yeah. Like people trying to be like, congratulations. It was chaotic. And do you know what? I often think like, oh my God, if I could speak to that 27-year-old version of me now, I would be like, do it. That was so fun and weird. Like, definitely don't not do that. Yeah. A lot of people are like, God, that was a mistake. No, it wasn't. Yeah. It was a mistake on paper. Yeah. It was expensive. It caused me a lot of emotional turmoil and a lot of chaos. But it was like a really important chapter of my life because I think that's when I really started to sit down and ask myself some of the bigger questions. Who am I? What do I want? What do I want to create? And if I hadn't found, I do think that life has a way of making sure you get on a path. And I think this was the way that both he and I actually ended up on a path that was ultimately much more positive for us. But yeah, so it was just a wild ride. And I'm really glad, you know, if you're going to do something mad like that, do it in your 20s.
Yeah, I mean, that's an anecdote, isn't it?
Live life for the anecdote.
That's a strong anecdote. And you do have to, I think sometimes like you've got to go quite far to learn a lot about yourself. You've got to do a lot of exploration. Maybe some people don't need that, others do. Like you clearly needed to go literally to California to like explore the depths of who you are, that just shows how much you've got about you. You know what I mean? Really.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think anyway, it shows you the range you've got, because not many people would do that. Oh, there's some serious range in there.
She's got range.
And then like, because now, I mean, punchline is now you live in Stone.
Yeah.
So how's that happened?
Honestly, what a journey.
From California.
Yeah.
Yeah, to Stone.
So there's a famous California to Stone.
Transatlantic route. Yes.
International hub.
Yeah.
I honestly, never expected that I would find myself here. But then I was, a couple of years ago, just got this like sense that I wanted to like create something, but I didn't know what it was. But I found like, whenever I would go to watch some stand-up or I'd go to like a show or something, I'd walk into the theatre and I'd be like, is this the place? But I didn't know what question I was asking. I think often I'll move through life quite intuitively. I'll just be like, that feels interesting, or that feels interesting. And then my auntie Marilyn runs a dance school, Marilyn Jones Dance School.
Okay, yeah.
And so I danced forever. And every year they do something called Showtime, cracking. And I just saw her put on Facebook like, oh, can't wait for Showtime next year. It's at this venue. And it just suddenly, I just saw it and I was like, oh my God, I want to run an event in Stoke. I want to run a conference in Stoke. And so then I started Confidence Live. I'd been working in like the confidence space for a few years, and I'd bought the domain Confidence Live like 3 years before.
Yeah.
Don't know why. And it sat there and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to run a big conference called Confidence Live, and it's going to be in Stoke. Decided to do it at the King's Hall. And so started organising this. I don't know why. I don't know.
So genuinely at this point, you're just following an urge. There's no like other business reason to start a conference, really. Because at this point, you're not running the digital marketing agency anymore, and you're is that how you would?
A trainer, yeah.
You're a trainer. You're doing public speaking training, confidence training, working in businesses, and also sharing brilliant videos on social media from my perspective. And you've had just a creative urge. And what because there's a creative urge to do a conference, but it sounds like there's also a creative urge to do it in Stoke though as well.
It was the Stoke that was the driver.
Yeah, that almost feels like a bigger drive somehow.
I think it was.
Yeah.
It was and I'd always had this subtly somewhere. I remember when I started my digital agency, I researched quite heavily about making it a social enterprise and moving it up to Stoke. So I'd always had a bit of I'd done all right in business the past few years. I think my industry had a post-pandemic boom. Like it really just blew up.
Yeah.
After the pandemic. So I think I'd done all right. I think like I felt I had a little bit of money and I just really wanted to give it back to the community that gave me so much.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, I want to do something in Stoke. So started doing it in Stoke, met loads of really interesting people, was like blown away by the grit and the spirit and the entrepreneurship and the cool shit that's happening here. And then one day I came up for my birthday last year to go to Alton Towers and saw this property on the market, and just the moment, and I was like, that's it. That's where I want to live.
Wow. And
so then moved up.
And now in the present, now you live back in this area. You've done Confidence Live two years in a row. 2 years in a row. Third year is happening. Is that?
Third year is happening in a big way.
So third year is happening in a big way. So you're going deeper into it actually. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I remember when I went to Confidence Live. In fact, I spoke at Confidence Live that first year you did it. And my head was rolling off my shoulders because it's a genuine. I'm not just saying this because you're here. It's a fantastic event wherever it is in the world. It really is. It's full of life and diversity, and I think it is genuinely confidence in the way that confidence actually is, not this like work harder kind of confidence. So it just touches all the right notes, for me at least anyway. And I remember I went and I was like, wow, this is epic. And then it felt amazing to walk out and like get to Stoke train station. And for me, I got the train back to Stone. I was like, I'm doing that here. And it just, for me, I was like, that feels even more powerful because I was like, Kirsty's bringing cool people to this area. She's putting something on that's kind of is progressive in this area. I'm like, yeah, this is what I want here. So I was absolutely buzzing. And then obviously I came down a little bit at the last one, and same energy. Like you can just feel it. So I think personally, the edge is even stronger.
Yeah.
Being in a place that, if we're honest, is critically underconfident, I would say.
And I actually don't think I could do it outside of Stoke. So for
Really?
example, you know, we had Catherine Ryan.
Yeah.
At the top of her career.
Yeah, you've had Catherine Ryan and Caitlin Moran last 2 years.
Yeah, and I'm speaking next year, I can't say yet, but they're amazing and I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Like they're insanely good next year. But yeah, so Catherine Ryan got up early, drove to Stoke, and she's used to slick venues it's called riders, where you get like whatever you want when you arrive. And I think if I was doing something, say in a city, London or Manchester, I would have felt a pressure to create this very slick experience. Whereas because it's in Stoke, and I had meetings with her in advance, I was like, look, the venue, it's rough around the edges. You don't have a dressing room. And that was one of her requests. I was like, you don't have a dressing room, but I can put you in the Lord Mayor's office. He's kindly let us use it. Is that how you say mayor or mayor? I never know.
I never know.
No, we'll go with it.
Yeah.
So like the mayor had gone, she can use my office. So she goes into this like mayor's office to like dress herself. There's a drag queen in there. And I think there is something about the nature of Stoke. It is rough around the edges that I just find it so permission giving.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have to
I feel like people can just and then they can relax.
Yes.
She can just then relax then. She doesn't have to try and be something she's not, or like keep up these. It's what you were on about. You hate formality.
I hate formality.
So it drops formality instantly.
Instantly. And the whole tagline of the event is impact, not perfection. Because I think that's so much about what's happening in this city, the work that you're doing. I think it's culturally really part of, you know, what's happening here. Like we're not seeking perfection. We're just seeking like positive change.
Yeah.
Because I think this idea of perfection is stuffy formality.
And it's comparison. Like I think we do so much across Stoke and Staffordshire of comparing ourselves to London or Birmingham or Manchester. And it's neither of those, and nor should it be.
Yeah.
It needs to just be authentically itself and find itself in that way. And I feel like that's only going to happen by us all going on a journey of that, not just trying to find perfection, because it just won't happen. Can you say what's in store next year? Like, or do you want to hold?
It's just going to be it's going to be like quadruple the size. I've gone, because I was struggling a little bit with the Kings, you know, a lot of people are coming in and they need somewhere to get coffee and it's just, you know, there's the Coral Betting shop.
And how many people did you have last year?
About 700 last year.
So you're bringing 700 people into Stoke for an event, which is awesome.
Yeah.
I love it.
I'm hoping to double that next year.
We're going to go double. I love it.
Go big.
That's exciting. And how are you, last thing before we'll close out, how are you finding, not just being here? I'd love to know how you finding being here on like a personal level and a professional level.
Fucking great. You know what? I was running away from home, but it was always here. And I didn't realize when I got back, because I moved back and I was telling myself these lies, like, you know, I'll just be here a little bit and then I'll Airbnb it and I'll spend most of my time in London. But I got here and I was like, oh, wow, okay, I actually feel at home. And this is what I'm saying to people, like, I feel at home in the place I grew up. Who knew? I feel like I make sense. Like my personality makes sense here. I feel like I fit. I feel like I can meet people and just have this like easy friendships pretty quickly. And I think a lot of the stuff that I thought about this place, I've not experienced it. And I've found since I moved back, like a sense of just like peace that I've never had ever. So moving back to the place you grew up made me feel at home.
Who knew? And what about professionally? Like, do you feel like you can achieve what you want to achieve?
I think so. I do actually, especially when I have conversations like this. I think sometimes it's easy to maybe slip into a slightly gentler pace of life. And so I think, and that's fine, that's very valid. But I think sometimes I'm like, right, let's go. And so I've got a good community of people building things. And I'm just like, James, let's go for a walk along the canal. Come on.
Yeah.
And just have that like burst of
energy.
energy.
Need to harness that, because I think you can, the massive reward of living in this area, at least for me, is like my mental health, essentially, because of the quality of life I feel like I can have, and the pace, and just the general culture. And then I do sometimes find that I can lack inspiration at times. I just can. I think I'd be lying if I said that I could find that. I find it when I meet people, but I have to seek it out.
Yeah.
I think someone commented on one of the Knots posts the other day saying, I've always found, he said Stoke, but I think it applies this whole area, is a place where you get out what you put in. You can't just receive here, I don't think. I think you've got to put in, because it's naturally a fragmented place. This isn't a place where we're going to get a tram or an underground into the city centre and walk out. It's not happening yet, but it's not happening. So I think you've got to actively kind of contribute, and then you get it out. And I think if you just kind of sit there and expect this place to just kind of give you ambition or inspire, it's not going to happen.
Shall we end on a Barack Obama quote?
I'd love to hear it. I've got a couple more quick fire questions, actually, but I need the Barack Obama.
Right, because I was reading Michelle Obama's autobiography recently. It's very good. Yeah. Good woman, nice, actually.
Yeah, she's
cracking,
well.
10 out of 10. And she'd said a Barack Obama, and when I read it, I was on a flight and I was going to text it to you. And I thought, this is exactly what you're trying to do. And I know a lot of the work you get in the Knot, some people are like, yeah, but Stoke's just the way it is. It's the way it is. There's a Barack Obama quote that says, you can see a place for what it is and at the same time work to make it better.
I couldn't agree more, Barack. I literally couldn't agree more.
Some of your many commonalities.
Yeah, I could not agree more. I love that. Yeah, because I think we get out what we put in, and I think if we've maybe been conditioned in a way to lose power and lose our agency and believe we're not good, or we're not good enough, or we're not smart or intelligent, or we don't matter, I feel like it just develops this like sense of just being defeated and expecting life to give things to you. And for some people, yes, like, people need help, and of course we all need help, and we need to be given things, but at the same time we've got to contribute and create. And like the only way this region is going to regenerate, the council are not going to regenerate Stoke-on-Trent and Staffordshire alone. Like they literally take the bins out and at best do the potholes, hopefully, and keep the roads nice, and they can be a good steward and a good platform. But we the people will regenerate, and I also get even more passionate because that's actually the history of this region.
It is.
The actual history of this region is great entrepreneurs and industrialists that pioneered, actually the whole Midlands really. So yeah, I think if we can read the history books and learn from that and take agency and do a bit of Barack Obama, we'll be okay, I think.
But have you read Radical Potter?
Yes, I haven't. I've got it on my shelf and I flicked through it.
Same.
Yeah, yeah. So my answer to most people's that is yes, I've read
it. Same, completely read it.
And then before we leave, favourite place to get a coffee?
Bear.
It's a comfortable Bear. Bear are going to, Craig, you're going to have to sponsor this, mate, because honestly.
Like easily Bear.
Favourite place to get food?
I really like Aston Marina.
Good shout.
You get like very fresh, like healthy. Yeah, I really like it there. Yeah. It's a nice vibe.
Yeah, good vibes, nice view. Favourite thing to do?
Go to Maid at Modishall Oaks.
You're a massive Maid at Modishall Oaks fan. I love it.
Huge, such a nice community there.
Yeah, nice. So you're getting a coffee at Bear, bit of food at Aston Marina, and then doing a class at Maid.
That's it.
Love it. Well, honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure. Like the amount of, very similar journey. So I trying to hold myself back because I just feel really similar, going away to find yourself, coming back, realising home is here. I really resonate, and I hope other people will as well. And I hope you're a good example of how, you can both be yourself here, express yourself here, and do great things here. So, thanks for being with us.
Thank you.